Welcome. This is David Bowles, Human Meme. Today's topic, the Caffeine Referral. How we arrive at our addictions is always a fascination of the failure of the human spirit. Some addictions are beneficial. Healthy diet, working out, singing to the moon, swooning along the stars. Other addictions can be a little more damaging, drugs, alcohol, and some may argue caffeine. And caffeine is found in a lot of ordinary things: chocolate, soda, coffee, tea, and today you might even find some caffeine added to health water. Caffeine, as a drug, raises the heart rate and increases blood pressure, and if you stop taking in your daily jolt of caffeine, your withdrawal headaches can last for days. So here's my quick caffeine addiction story, a confessional really, as we trace back the origin of an addiction. I must have been 10 or 11 years old, at the end of my elementary school studies, but not quite inside the middle school yet. And I was living in Nebraska, where snowfalls were windy and brutal, and we lived on the slope of a tall hill. So any snowfall would drift 5 times in size due to winds whipping up and down our slope. So 5 inches of snow up the hill slope translated to about 25-inch drifts, when we got lucky, in our driveway, where I then had to shovel that snow. And the trick to shoveling heavy snow is to try to stay ahead of it if you can. Shovel your sidewalk and driveway 2 or 3 times while it is snowing so you don't break your back later trying to shovel it all at once when the snowfall ends. Well, one year, early in my young solo snow shoveling career, snowblowing machines were not very common in our neighborhood, and they were really expensive. But the guy up at the top of the hill, well, he had a snowblower machine, and he'd blow the snow off of everyone's sidewalk on our side of the street, except for our house. Yes, he'd actually turn off his snow-blowing machine when he came to our house, our sidewalk, and then he'd turn it back on after he passed us and he'd finish going down the hill. And sure, we had elderly neighbors up and down our street, but I was a kid alone on my own, and I would have appreciated a little help shoveling a small sliver of what I had to shovel alone. Well, I guess that old guy felt that since I was a young lad, he had to help build me up some character by letting me hand shovel my own sidewalk without his mechanical intervention. And oh yes, I still quite hard remember him for that. So anyway, we had a huge driveway that stretched around the back of the house, and the only people in the house were me and my mother. So I was left to shoveling, and I shoveled the snow, and it would take hours. And it was hard and sweaty, back-breaking work for a little kid to try to do alone. There is no romance in shoveling heavy, wet snow in the blinding sun of Nebraska. And one snowfall was especially hard on me, and I was struggling. I was tired. My back hurt. But to get the car out of the garage, I had to shovel all the drifting snow first, and I had given up. I was out of energy. I could not go on. And that's when it happened. My forced caffeine referral. My mother heated up some boiling water in our Lytton microwave oven, and then added a spoonful of Taster's Choice instant coffee. Yes, an instant coffee. Added all into a big coffee mug. and in went the boiling water, and she handed it to me and ordered me to drink it for some power. Well, I couldn't believe I was being offered an adult drink. Alcohol was forbidden in our house. We didn't drink hot tea. And I was never allowed any coffee ever before. And not really because of caffeine, but because just that coffee was not for children. Well, I guess on that day things had changed, and the car had to be moved out of the garage. And so Taster's Choice instant coffee, caffeine, was now allowed. But even back then, I knew the only reason I was being offered a mug of instant coffee was to get me jacked up enough on caffeine to go out there and finish my shoveling job. And the coffee was just awful, bitter, there was no milk, heavy black, a hearty, heaping spoonful. Taster's No Choice coffee was a blizzard drifting upon my virgin tongue. After about 10 minutes, I felt that familiar jolt, that indescribable rush that heroin users call chasing the dragon. And I went out dutifully, high on caffeine, and I finished shoveling the driveway in record time. And after that first taste of Taster's Choice instant non-coffee coffee, oh, I was hooked. And over the years, I became a non-instant coffee connoisseur, brewing my own pots of coffee in my basement bedroom, brewing Colombian Brown Gold. Yes, that was the best ground drip coffee brand. Colombian Brown Gold, the best coffee I ever had. And of course, the ubiquitous Mr. Coffee Machine was my brewing machine of choice. And from then on, my human meme friend, I used caffeine to wake up in the morning and to stay awake at night. Over those years, I probably averaged about 4 hours of sleep a day, a night, in my tweens and 20s, drinking up to 3 pots of hot black coffee a day. Coffee was, and still is, the most socially acceptable way to deliver drugs to the suspected and the unwitting, all in the clamor to get more done, to pass that test, to do that job, to shovel that snowdrift. But just because we all do these caffeine boosts, and just because we then actively addict our children to caffeine and sugar early in their developmental lives, but should we be doing that? Should we want to be caffeine and sugar pushers to our children? Well, no behavioral or psychological or physiological addiction is a good thing. Yet caffeine seems to get a pass. Oh, caffeine won't hurt you. The caffeine jitters are a good thing because you can still get the job done. And over the years, I've tried to cut back on caffeine and go stone cold turkey without coffee or tea, and I've had a couple of good years of being decoupled from caffeine. But caffeine always seems to start to work its way back into my life, usually through the perils of dark chocolate. And then I'm back on the hook with some heavy black coffee to go with my dark chocolate, and the cycle of caffeine addiction begins all over again. And yes, there are good grain drinks that don't have caffeine, like Dandy Blend and Pero and Caffrey Roma, and even Postum. They all give you that bitter coffee taste without the caffeine. And I guess that's okay, but why would you want that bitter chicory experience without getting the caffeine percolation? And so, we who believe are cursed to chase the caffeine dragon. Just one last time, every day, hoping for just one more kick in the head, just one more slap in the face, just one more punch in the nuts. A body blow right in the chest, just to get that last little bit of energy out of you and into that drifting snow. Thank you for listening. Be a human meme.